Straighten them out one day.
One day.
Give him a club in the head.
Okay, we're going to learn a deep concept over here, and the Rebbe is a deep sikha here today. It's going to get a little bit technical, but Rabbi Elliot is going to help us out a little bit over here today. I don't want to get too scientific, and surely I'm not a scientist, and I'm also not so myself knowledgeable into the details of today's subject, which the Rebbe talks about the four foundations in the Chassidus, the four foundations that the world was created upon. It's brought down in the Tanya. The Alter Rebbe talks about it in the beginning a little bit. The four foundations of the world: fire, wind, water, and earth. Which the world was created on, and everything in the world, everything that is in the world has these four foundations. And the Rebbe takes this concept and he explains a concept, an aspect of Pesach that we all know about, and that is the prohibition of chametz on Pesach. We know that Pesach, as we are dealing with the story of Exodus, the story of the 10 plagues, which brings about the redemption of the Jewish nation. We know that we come together every year on Pesach, the highlight, so to say, of the preparation. Right, we're cleaning the house a month before. We're not preparing our seder a month before. We're preparing, cleansing the house for chametz, from any kind of leaven in our homes. And because the prohibition of leaven is not just a prohibition of not eating leaven, or even not even having any pleasure from leaven during Passover, but actually the prohibition of leaven is not having it at all. That you don't, as it says in the Torah, Bal Yira or Bal Yamatzah, that you should not find any leaven, see any leaven in your home, which is an interesting thing, because there are a lot of prohibitions in the Torah. For example, you're not allowed to eat pig, but the Torah does not tell you should not see a pig, or you should not even maybe use a pig, right? You can use a pig. The Torah prohibits you from eating horse meat. That doesn't mean the Torah doesn't say you shouldn't ride a horse, or you shouldn't have a horse as a pet, right? Why does the Torah tell us when it comes to chametz, you're not allowed to even see chametz? It's not, don't eat chametz. I can get that. Don't eat non-kosher. Don't eat chametz. Right. So, for example, let's say the Torah tells you you shouldn't eat a burger, a cheeseburger, right? Okay, but that we know, that's interesting. So the Torah tells us over there we're not allowed to eat a cheeseburger, but then the Torah says more, that you're not allowed to have enough in a cheeseburger, right? So what? I know you're not allowed pleasure. Oh. So if God forbid you made a cheeseburger by mistake, let's say you mixed the milk and meat in your house by mistake. Not cheeseburger. You mixed the milk and meat in your house by mistake, or you had a meat in your thing, and by mistake people put butter, for example. So now you thought it was margarine. You put butter. You have now you realize you have put butter in the chicken. It became milk and meat together. You're not allowed to give it to anybody. You're not allowed to give it to your friend. It's asur ba'anah. It's prohibited from pleasure. So I cannot. The only thing I could do is throw it in the garbage. I can't give it to my dog. I can't give it to anybody. I have to destroy it. I have to throw it out. So that's what you see. For example, non-kosher meat, I can give it to my dog. I can give it to a non-Jew. I can sell it even. If I have, for whatever reason, I get an influx of non-kosher meat for whatever reason, I could sell it. I can make money from it. I don't have to destroy it. But if I mix milk and meat together, I now have to destroy it. I can't have any kind of pleasure from it. So it's interesting. What the Rebbe is going to explain over here, it's interesting that we find different levels in Judaism in the concept of a prohibition when it comes to food.
I have a
Certain
question,
things-
Rabbi. People
Yes.
have Passover kitchens that are separate from their regular kitchen. So do they still have to, in the regular kitchen, be, make sure
Unless,
this?
yes, because unless they can lock their kitchen up, that they don't
they
walk
could do
through
that?
it, then they
Oh,
can
okay.
do that. But if
Oh,
they
okay.
walk through the regular week, the regular kitchen, they have to get rid of the chametz. They can't leave any chametz to be seen in their regular kitchen. Because
If
when
they
it
lock it up, it's
chametz,
okay.
you're not allowed to see it. You're not allowed to see it. So that means when it comes to
Okay.
chametz, I'm just trying to say, so you
Yeah.
have certain foods you're not allowed to eat. There's certain foods that you're not allowed to eat. You're not allowed to have nothing. You don't have any pleasure from it. You can't sell it. You cannot give it to somebody else to eat, non-Jewish person to eat. And there's certain foods when it comes to chametz that you're not allowed to even see it or own it, see it, etc. By your matzah. You can't have any, the canon. So what is the dynamics of this concept? What is the dynamics in the positive, in the negative? And what is the dynamics in the positive? Okay? So the Rebbe, to explain this, the Rebbe explains that we have to know, because we're talking about physical things, we have to go to what Chassidus says about the creation of physical things. What is the foundation of physical things? So it's interesting because in science, I believe there's 118 elements, right? There's 118 elements. In Chassidus, there's 4 elements. So seemingly there's a little bit of a contradiction between science and but it's not. The Rebbe says it's not, because Chassidus is talking about one concept, Torah is talking about one concept, and science is talking about more of a breakage of these concepts, more of a division of these concepts. That means ultimately you can take these 4 concepts and you can subdivide it into many more concepts. So it's not a contradiction. So let's go to Maimonides, which the Alter Rebbe brings down. Maimonides says in text number 1, these 4 bodies, there are 4 bodies in every element: fire, wind, water, earth. Fire, wind, water, and earth are the 4 elements, the 4 basic elements in everything that is created under the sky. So that means, in truth, is that fire itself has 4 elements. Water has 4 elements. Each and everything has, because water itself is one of the creations in the world. So water has 4 elements, and fire has 4 elements, and earth has 4 elements. So the body of everything that exists, be it human, beast, fowl, crawling creatures, fish, plants, metal, precious stones, this, that, Rambam, pearls, building stones, mountains, lumps of earth. So even earth is a combination of these 4 elements. Eish, Ruach, Mayim, and Offer. The Alter Rebbe in Tanya says that a human being also has these 4 elements. Eish, Ruach, Mayim, and Offer. He has also these 4 elements, which also would ultimately translate to his midas, his certain character traits of fire, desire, water, taivas, delight, mayim. That's mayim is delight, ruach, fertility, and offer is earth, is the depression. So again, as I said, that there's 100 that there is 118 in I believe in science. There's 118 what is it called?
Elements.
Periodic table.
They're
So
the elements.
what does the word periodic mean? I'm not a scientist. What does periodic mean? That's
It's because it follows an order, it increases the atomic weights
Okay,
as you go through the
Okay.
series.
okay.
Wait, Rabbi, what did you say wind was?
So wind is frivolity. Frivolity, boasting,
Oh,
nothingness is wind.
okay.
So the Rebbe writes on this, he says in text number 2, again, the Rebbe was a scientist. He understood the sciences and he understood the Torah, so he was a genius in both. So he says, the Rebbe says in text number 2, the elements of our sages addresses are not foundational in the sense of being indestructible, indivisible. So they were general concepts. They are foundational in the sense that everything that exists is comprised of them. They are also irrelevant to the chemical elements. So they're more general elements. That's what the Rebbe. So the Rebbe, to answer, because somebody asked him a question, how does the Rambam write that there's 4 elements when we know in science there's more than 4 elements in everything? So the Rebbe writes, because the Torah is talking about more of a general concept, and ultimately that everything, because in the science could be that not everything has all 118 elements, but in Torah everything would have to have these 4 elements. There are those who understand these elements are characteristics such as cold, wet, hot, and dry. So every element has cold, wet, hot, and dry. Cold, wet, hot, and dry. This is why the sages call them characteristics of nature. So everything has cold, wet, hot, and dry. So even, like, for example, the difference between blood and water. Again, I'm not a scientist of blood and water in this concept. So blood is also water, right? As well. What's the difference?
Mostly water.
Mostly water, but it has more the concept, the element of dryness in it. It's heavier than water. So therefore, blood, for example, has also the concept of more dryness in it, and therefore it congels. Therefore, water cannot congel, but blood could congel, because this water, since it has also the element of dryness, it has that concept of also congealing itself. So that's the concept. I'm not a scientist. That's not my point of it. It's not the class. I don't want to get too involved in it. But that's the basic. The Torah says, I'm not going to go into the difference in science. The Torah says that everything in creation has these 4 elements. So, for example, a bird can fly, and a crawling thing in the earth doesn't fly. It crawls on the earth. So in Torah, that means that the bird also has all 4 elements, but the bird has more of air, the element of air. He's light. He's much more lighter, and therefore it has the capacity of flying. While something that crawls has more the element of earth in it. So again, what I just told you is the basic concepts. I'm not a scientist, and I don't know how these elements exactly work. I know that Torah says that every entity has these 4 elements within it. We're going to go to the spiritual side of it, self-understood. We're not interested in the scientific side of it. You can all go and Google it and go into the scientific side of this concept. We want to go more to the spiritual side of this aspect. The Rambam continues and says that besides everything having 4 elements to it, there's a 5th element. There's a 5th element. So let's look at the Rambam says in text number 3. And that's the generic of all 4 elements. That's really the Rambam writes the 5th element. Then there's a 5th generic element that encompasses all 4 elements. Unlike the 4 elements that emerge from it, the 5th element has no physical definition. It's the element that unites all the four elements. So in essence, if you want to divide it if you want to divide this concept, that you'll more understand it maybe in simpler terms. So there's the generic form inside their source. That's the fifth element. The more defined state in which they become characteristic form without matter, the form without matter. And then you ultimately have the way they come into a form that has matter. That's water or fire or earth. So you have three elements to this concept. Let's say water. You have generic side of it. You have the concept of water, the way it is there without any form of water, the characteristics of water. And then you have the form ultimately of water. So I said before, water, for example, let's say earth. You have the generic of earth. You have the way, the characteristics of earth, that depression, that's what they read, the characteristics of earth, heaviness. And then you have earth. You have the actual earth. Yeah? Are you with me? That's the way the Rambam, if you want, that's the way Maimonides explains how you have the world. If you want to know what the world is made of, you want to know what this table is made of, you have these four elements. You have a fifth element that gives the capability for these four elements. And ultimately, you have what's the characteristics of this table? It's a tree. Comes from a
Wait,
tree.
1 second. What is the fifth element? That's the part I'm not getting.
So look at the words. It's a fifth generic element. Encompasses all four elements. That's a spiritual side of this element. It's the source of all elements. It's the source for this form. So you have a total spiritual side to it. Then you have a more of a concept. It's a form. It's a concept, but doesn't have matter. Doesn't have matter in it yet. And then you have matter. You have expression in Chassidus, Tzura b'li chomer, a form without matter. An angel is a form without matter. Right? You cannot put it under a microscope, but it's a concept.
Talking about energy, Rabbi Booker.
Glue. There's a
Is this
glue
energy you're speaking about?
together, and that is the
Spiritual
thought
genie.
element that was recently discovered in France. The God.
So, for example, let's go. You have, for example, the concept. You have the go over here. What did Rambam once say? You have the concept of heat, hot heat. You have a characteristic of heat. Where does heat come from? There's a source of this heat. And then you have the concept of heat, something that's hot. And then you have the actual thing that's hot. So you have to have a concept of heat before you have the actual thing that becomes hot. Because this concept of heat could be actually many things, right? We can have in a fire heat. You can have in you can have in yourself. You get hot. You have that expression. You get hot. Right? So this characteristic of heat comes into many different elements, the concept of Aish, fire. What is the source of fire? What is the source of this heat? The source of the heat is a more generic concept. It's not, you can't even characteristic, you can't even say it's concept of heat.
So are you saying the source or of heat is that fifth?
That's the fifth. So the source of heat.
And
Where
does this
is
have
heat? Where
anything
does
to
the
do with,
generic? Where does the heat come from? Before
does
it
this have
came
anything
into
to-
even a concept of heat, there has to be its source. That has to be where it comes from.
does this have anything to do with energy? Does energy fall into this?
Well,
Like
energy
light
ultimately
and
has
all, whatever?
energy. Energy,
It's a form of heat.
if any, I don't know what energy is. Energy could be.
It's not really a form of heat, it's.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's
So
not really a
the
form of heat.
characteristics of the four elements,
Yes.
they're saying that that also goes to form certain characteristics of people?
Yes. So of everything,
I know, but-
of everything. So ultimately, your character, ultimately, you can be more passionate person. You can be more of a mayim, of a person that is into delight. You can be more of a person that is depressed, earth, or you can be more of a person that is irrelevant. You're just the irrelevant person.
Rabbi, go back to the tree. You started talking about a tree.
So the tree, I just said the tree. You have the tree. What is the tree? The tree is a vegetative form. It's a concept of earth. It comes from the earth. So the tree comes from the earth. That's its original. You can't see it in the earth. Ultimately, it comes out as a tree, as a physical form. It's in the earth. That's why the tree is always connected to its. I stopped saying it because it's a whole different subject. I was going to go into a whole different subject. I really wanted to say earth itself. That's why I went to the earth. Tree you might lose the point. So take earth itself. Earth itself has its character. Earth is something that draws you down. It's even in scientific we are what is it called, drawn to the earth, right? What is it called? Gravity. Thank you very much.
Actually, time, space.
So the earth draws us downwards. That's where ultimately we go back to the earth. We are drawn to the earth, and then the answer is because a person himself, majority is earth. His four elements also a majority of is earth, and that's why he's drawn to the earth. The earth itself, what is the characteristic of earth? I gave you the characteristic of earth. And then what is the source of earth? What is the source of this earth? Well, besides its character, what is the source of that character? That is more of a spiritual thing. I call it God. I mean, whatever you want to call it. But we can understand that it's more of a spiritual concept. That ultimately, what is the source of this characteristic of earth? So the character of earth is a tzura. It's like a form without density. It's a form, but it's not. It's a character. It's still a spiritual to the physical side of earth. And then you have even the character is physical to its source.
Rabbi, so what you're saying that every element has the spirit, and the spirit.
No question about it.
So the spirit is really Hashem.
No question about it. So now the question is going to be in the negative in food itself. How deep does this concept go? How deep does this aspect go in a food, in something that is negative, non-kosher food? There are some food, in essence, the Rebbe says that it does character its physical part of itself. Some things go to the character of the food, and some things go to the dust of food, to the essence of the food.
But is this fifth thing considered to be part of this science?
No, this is part of the Torah. The Torah, yeah, this is part of science. I mean, ultimately, these four characteristics, these four concepts that everything in the world is created from is based also, science would also agree to that. Again, Science has more elements than the four, but everybody agrees to that basic. There's four elements to everything that is
Right,
in
but
this
I'm
world.
asking you about the fifth one,
Oh,
the
the fifth
God
one.
one. Is that
The
part
fifth one.
considered part of science?
I don't know. No, I don't know. Science goes to the spiritual concept of the food. So let's go over here. The Alter Rebbe in text number 4 says, why are certain foods prohibited? So forbidden foods, he says, are called asur, which means asur means tied down. If someone eats something erroneously for the sake of heaven, intended to use its nourishment for the study of Torah and prayer, the nourishment does not attach to the words of Torah and prayer. So if I use I decide I'm going to eat non-kosher, God forbid, and I'm going to use it out for a good purpose, I'm going to be able to learn Torah with this food. Well, that's why it's called asur. Asur means it is locked up. Asur means like a jail, a beis hasurim. It's like a prison. The food is locked up. So the food cannot attach itself to anything else but itself. It cannot go to anything else. Something that is mutter means it's opened, meaning that the food, there's an energy in the food, there's a godliness in the food that has the capability to attach itself to something else. So the second I eat kosher food and I use that food for learning Torah, now the food has got attached to the Torah that I'm learning. But if I eat non-kosher, the Alter Rebbe says, I can't say, I'm going to go learn Torah now. Because you can learn Torah from today to tomorrow. This food is not attachable. It's not going to attach itself to anything godly. Because it's locked in its place. It can become holy. It's tied down in unholiness. So that's the concept of, in general, that the Torah tells you that there's certain foods that you physically cannot attach it in any way to anything but itself. So the Rebbe explains in text number 5a, let's see how the Rebbe is wording. When we eat something, we benefit from its finished form, the edible form. We benefit from we don't benefit from the physical. We're benefiting from what is in this food. We don't interact with the elements that form the food. When we derive benefit from something, we interact with the element that formed it. You with me? So example, when you sell a burger, when I sell a burger, kosher burger, right? There are two people. The person that's buying the burger is only interested in eating a burger. But if I'm the person who sells the burger, I understand all the elements that go into this burger. What made this burger? I understand all the different components that brought together this burger. To me, it's important that all these components come together to make this burger. What made this burger so delicious? Because all the elements that I put into this burger. You're not interested you're just interested in eating a good burger. To me, self-understood, I'm interested in making sure that you eat a good burger. How is that going to happen if I'm going to make sure that there's going to be all the elements in this burger, and I'm going to put it on a nice with some tomatoes, and I'm going to put some dressing, and I'm going to put it in between two pieces of bread. So there's many elements that I put together to make sure that you enjoy this burger. You're not interested in all these of how the burger came into existence. You're interested in eating a good burger.
Like the filter fish. You don't want to see it being made, but you know when it tastes good and you eat it.
Correct. But to the person who's making the filter fish, he needs to make sure that all the elements are there to make sure that when you're gonna eat it, you're gonna enjoy the filter fish.
But if you watch the gefilte fish being made, you may never eat gefilte fish again. You don't want to know what's behind the curtain.
Same thing with a burger.
Actually, the gefilte fish could be very good.
So that's what the Rebbe says in the next thing. You understand? Maybe foods that are forbidden to eat are tied down to unholiness. However, it's critical to recognize that this unholiness pertains only to the outer surface or the finished form of the food, which renders it unsuitable for consumption. The individual elements that constitute the food item, those associated with potential benefits, are not inherently unholy. That's why I said a non-kosher food is not inherently unholy, because you can use the food, you can sell it, you can give it to your animal, you can give it as a gift to a non-Jew. Consequently, we may derive benefits from those elements.
So what he's saying is food that is forbidden, which is non-kosher meat, you can derive a benefit from.
Yes, you could.
Food that's trafed, where you trafe the meat and the dairy, that you have to get rid of.
Correct. So now we went to the next level.
Because there you had whole.
Now we created the next level, which the food becomes more inherently unkosher. It went to the next level that you're not allowed that it became itself an unkosher concept.
Two kosher foods, and you end up with unholy non-kosher food
Correct.
that you can't even benefit from.
Yeah, better because in essence it went to a deeper level of usur. It went to a deeper level of prohibitedness. That's why you're not allowed to eat a cat. You're not allowed to eat a horse, but you can ride a horse. You can enjoy a horse. The horse is not ungood. The horse is not unholy. It's the food, it's the meat that becomes unholy. But the horse is holy, like the cow.
That ties into the whole chametz thing,
Ah, that's correct. So here,
because chametz is not during Pesach, during the year, chametz is kosher.
so you have a situation in essence that not all four elements are impure. Only one of the elements are unholy. So therefore you have the other three elements that can still be holy. Because everything is made out of four elements. So the question is, what element in this situation is unkosher? What element in this situation is unholy, unattainable, unattachable? So ultimately, even if I create a burger, like I said, I mix the milk and meat together, I still can see it. It can still be mine. I have to destroy it. But chametz, I cannot even see. So that went to the fourth, in essence, that goes to the fifth element. That goes to the fifth element. So chametz goes to the fifth element. So look at number 6. Chametz may not be found in your possession. Forget about chametz is not to be found in your possession, even if we make it absolutely no use of it and derive no benefit of it. This means that the entire object, even the very core that divests of all form, is tied down into unholiness. This is why ownership of its very existence is forbidden. So therefore, the Torah tells us in essence, shouldn't be in existence by a Jew. Chametz should not be in existence by a Jew. Not that he shouldn't have any benefit of it, not that he shouldn't eat it. It shouldn't be in existence. It should be out of existence. It comes Pesach, chametz should be a non-existent object by him.
That's why we do Mechirat Chametz.
Correct. But now you understand why you do Mechiras Chametz. Why don't you do Mechiras, why don't you sell other things that are non-kosher? You don't have to. Before. The Rebbe says now we understand something that we say every year on Pesach. Every year on Pesach, we say this statement in the Haggadah. You'll remember in Mir Shem, we come to Pesach this year. You'll understand it better. He says, right, the Haggadah is a long Haggadah. And we say with Rebbe Lezer said, how do we know that each plague that God brought upon the Egyptians, Egypt consists of 4 plagues? The passage states, he sent against them fury, anger, fury, indignation, trouble, and discharge of messengers of evil. Fury is 1. Indignation makes it 2. Trouble makes it 3. Discharge makes the messenger makes it 4. Thus we know that in Egypt they were struck by 40 plagues, and at the sea they were struck by 200 plagues. Because 4. Each one was 4. Comes Rabbi Akiva and says, no. How do we know that each plague that God brought upon Egypt was 5? Because the passage says, he's against his fiery anger, his fury, his indignation, and trouble, and discharge of messengers. His fiery anger is 1, fury is 2, indignation makes it 3, trouble makes it 4, discharge of messengers makes it 5. Thus we know that in Egypt they were struck by 50 plagues, not the 10, it was actually 50. And at the sea, they were struck with 250 plagues. So most of us read this every year. We don't understand this whole argument. What is the meaning of the argument? But that's the meaning. How deep did it go? Every plague. Did it go to the 4 elements or it went even to the 5th element? That's the argument to Rabbi Lezer. So the Abyantiv of Elef Rabbi Lezer, who maintains that each plague consists of 4 plagues, is the opinion that the plagues infiltrated not just the complete form, but also the 4 elements. Comes Rabbi Akiva, who maintains that each plague consists of 5 plagues, is the opinion that each plague attacked not only the elements, but also the genetic state in which they emerged, from which they emerged. It went to their essence. That's why this is their argument. How deep did God go into their plague? It was dust because everything is made of 4 elements. Was it dust in the 4 elements, or went even into the genetic, the spiritual side of them? And that's the machlekes. That's their argument. So basically, we understand now when we come to the mitzvah, you're going to come actually this it's interesting they brought this week because actually the mitzvah of matzahs and chametz is actually next week, but it's part of this parshas. So now you'll come you'll understand when the Torah says that we have to get rid of chametz. Comes Pesach, it's time of liberation. We have to liberate ourselves from any negative in our life. That's true liberation. True liberation is not just going to the external aspect of the thing, not even going to its form, but going to its essence. That is the way you liberate yourself. And the Rebbe is
Can I
not.
ask you a question, Rabbi Bucket?
Yes, sure.
When you say the four plagues, Rabbi Eliezer says the four plagues are the four elements, and Rabbi Akiva says there's that fifth generic element. But all the plagues were spiritual. I mean, they had a physical manifestation, but they obviously came from Hashem. They obviously started with
Yeah,
the
but the question is,
spiritual.
how deep did
So
it go?
what's the difference?
Again, how deep did it go? Did the Eibishter penetrate only the four elements of the world? Or Rabbi Akiva says, no, the Eibishter penetrated also the spiritual side of these elements. That's basically
And
their
what-
arguments.
So then what does that, so how is how does it look different? How do the,
Was there
how does
50
penetrating the
plagues?
physical,
Was
how
there
does it
50
look different?
plagues? Or was there 40 plagues? That's their argument. Did each plague have within it 4 elements? Or did each plague have within it 5 elements? So it's going to change the number of the manifestation and the devastation and the ultimate transformation of what happened in Egypt. That's their argument.
Do those things look different? Does the four plague
I don't know.
concept look different than the
That's a
5
good
plague?
question.
He
That's a
wasn't
good
there.
question. That's a good one. Let's go. The Rebbe is going to go to us. The Rebbe is going to bring it down practical to us. I don't know what happened in Egypt. I wasn't there. But the Rebbe is going to bring it to us. That's the most important thing. The Rebbe says we also have within ourselves 4 dimensions. And ultimately the 5th dimension. Because ultimately, the aspect of Yetzias Mitzrayim, going out of Mitzrayim, is also about going out of our Mitzrayim, going out of our Egypt. And the question is, how deep do we go out of Mitzrayim? So look at the Rebbe, it says the Alter Rebbe, it's based on the Alter Rebbe. There are 4, if you want to break it down, the 4 elements in a human being, I can give you the 4 elements. And there are 3 and a 4th one. The 3 are machshava, dibur, ma'aser. Your thought, your speech, and your action. Make sure that's good. Your thought, your speech, I don't know how long that's been there. If it smells bad? I don't know. I didn't say it's bad. I just had to make sure. Your thought, speech, and your action are your 3 elements. Your first 3 elements in your life. Thought, speech, and action. Bechinas haravi, your 4th element, bechinas ratzin ha'elyon, is the will of God that transcends thought, speech, and action. Yours draws down and exposed in this world by performance. You have the 4 elements in your body, in yourself. You have the basic 3 elements overcoming your thought, speech, and action. How deep are you going to go? You can go to your action, ultimately to your speech, which is your emotions, or you can go to your thought, which is the ultimate concept of this dimension. How deep are you going to go? How deep am I going to go in my own rectification of my 4 elements? And then ultimately, am I going to change my ratzon? Am I going to say more than even my machshava? Could I go even to the 4th element? That I can actually change my ratzon, my desire. And he gives over here a simple analogy. Jews love food. So he gives the analogy of the food service. In the food service, right? What in text number 10? This is Doug Fish. It's not part of the Seicha. He's giving you a simple analogy. What is most important in a restaurant? Food, service, or atmosphere? This is a loaded question, but I believe that all 3 are needed to execute to the highest standard, whether a quick service restaurant, casual, or fine dining operation. I also believe that service and atmosphere are the 2 most important ingredients in making a restaurant successful. I apologize in advance to all chefs who are going to complain about this comment. This is not to say that food quality and consistency are not also important. They are, but they're really secondary. The reality is that most part people go out to either fill up, spend some time with friends, or dine out. It's only in the 2% restaurant that people go out to dine out, to experience a chef's creation, in which food would be in my world need to be as good as a service. But in the end, service is what the hospitality business is all about. Great food does not make up for mediocre service. However, great service can offset mediocre food. In fact, it does at almost every quick service, family and casual chain out there. Those restaurants who make up a vast majority of our industry are the most popular with customers as well. Focus first on great service, and then make sure the atmosphere reflects the environment you want the customer to enjoy, and then put out the best food that you can.
It's a trifecta, you need all three.
Well, we can, I think food is the bottom line. That's the food.
The ornament used to advertise, what are you looking for? A good price, good food, or good atmosphere?
What does the Eibishter want in this? Let's just flip it over to God.
God like the prices.
God wants you just to come and pray, or he wants to have good service. He'd rather that you pray with a desire, serve him, or he doesn't want you to come and do him. Just give him a good song,
Good show.
and give him a good show. Does he want to? The Eibishter wants service. The Eibishter wants service. He wants you to come. He would be happy you pray less, and do it with desire, do it with service, do it with excitement. Then you would pray more. So that's for sure. I don't know about the food department. I don't know if I agree with him totally. Let me ask you a question. I don't go to football games, but he gives an example of a football game. But I sure, like if you're in a place, let's say you're walking in a mall, right? Or you're on a plane, or you're at a football game. Suddenly you realize you didn't daven.
Suddenly?
Suddenly you realize you have to daven. You have to pray. How do you do your prayer? How do you do your prayer? How do you do that? You daven. You're daven. It's mincha time. You're gonna daven. How you do your prayer? So you move aside. You rush it because you're uncomfortable, or you want to go back to the game. You're gonna miss the game. Whatever. Your wife's waiting. People are looking. How do you daven? Or do you say, I'm not going to daven in front of it, or go to the side, but I'm going to daven like in a shul?
What's the answer?
I hope you daven like you're in a shul.
In an airport?
I don't care where you are.
Doesn't
On the
matter.
airport, on the plane, at the game. You're going to daven. I'm not going to argue. You're going to pray. You're going to you're going to serve the meal. But are you going to give service? Are you going to give the Eibishter service? You're just give him his meal. You're going to give him his davening. Are you going to daven with excitement? Are you going to daven like you're in shul? Or are you going to be worried you're missing the game? People are watching. It's uncomfortable. It's this, it's that. You'll have 500 different excuses why you need to daven quicker, or you're not focused. How are you going to daven? How are you going to serve the Eibishter? Davening is service. How are you going to serve God? It's a good question. And we go through this dilemma. How deep are you going to go in your elements? Are you going to give das machshava dibur ma'isa, or are you going to give the rotzen? Are you going to go to the fourth element? Are you going to give the rotzen? Are you going to give your desire? Are you going to give the service?
Rabbi, can I just tell you?
Well, let me finish this, my thought.
I'm sorry.
Well, let's go a step further. You're in a game. You're watching a good game, right? And somebody calls you up, right? He says, I need you.
Yeah, we did that.
Would you drop the game?
Good question.
Would you drop the game? Right? Would you walk out of this game? I'm not saying what you should. Would you just walk out of the game? You paid $100 for the seats. You're sitting in the middle of the game. You have another good hour. Somebody calls you up for a favor. You say, listen, I'm too busy. I'll call you back later. I'm in the middle of the game. Or do you drop everything and you run to help, you want to do the favor? That's even deeper.
I like the other-
That's your fifth element, my friend. Are we willing to drop everything? Because that's the fifth element. That's our fifth spiritual side. That's who we really are.
Rabbi, can I tell you a story? Quick, real quick.
Good, because we have on Zoom.
Label didn't have time to daven. So he sits down in his seat, pulled out his tefillin, puts it on the corner. And all of a sudden, this guy gets up and starts screaming, he's gonna blow us. And he would not stay on that plane. That guy said, I'm leaving the plane. He went back to the airport. So they were on the runway. And they-
So let's go weiter. Crazy people. Hasimcha. So that's why the Rebbe writes in the first level, it's not enough you do with the three elements of your being. You have to go to the fourth element. It's great service when we rejoice in fulfillment of God's commandments, demonstrating our love for He has commanded it. So that's why sadness, look at this. This is Rabbi Aaron Kalin. We said this statement. I never heard this before till I read it today. Sadness is not a sin. However, the worst sin cannot turn off our hearts as much as sadness. A Jew who fails to rejoice over the privilege of being a Jew is ungrateful to God.
Wait, sadness will.
Sadness is not a sin. There's no sin in the Torah to be sad. However, the worst sin cannot turn off our hearts as such a sadness. It's like the worst, it's worse than the worst sin, even though it's not a sin. And then he says, a Jew fails to rejoice over the privilege of being a Jew is ungrateful to God. That's the fourth element.
יבדו את השם בשמחה.
That's it. So that's the fourth element. That is, I have the fourth, the Ratzin is my fourth element. That's a tzura b'li chayma. That's the tzura b'li chayma. That's the tzura b'li chayma. It's a Ratzin, it's will. And the Eibishter wanted that it should go through, just like in a negative, we're talking the positive, that I should go through my machshava, dibra, ma'aser, the shul. Imagine if I had my machshava, dibra, ma'aser, they were all part of this, everything I did. Machshava, dibra, ma'aser, my rotzen, I would have total joy in what I do.
What is machshava? Machshava?
Thought, machshava, thought, speech, and action. If I have my thought, speech, and action, which is those first three elements, and then I have my ratzah, the fourth element, my desire, I would have a total joy in everything I did. So I might have my machshava, I might have my dibur, I might have my, I'm missing the element of ratzin. I'm missing my joy.
We learned that with Yaakov, that he foresaw the future, but he was very sad when he saw. And because he was sad, Yaakov, when he wanted before he wanted to bless the children, he saw the future and Hashem took away his prophecy.
Correct. Every time a person got angry, Moshe got angry, he lost his prophecy.
Yeah.
Then you have to come to the ultimate, and that is the essence. As I asked you, are you ready to drop everything? That's when you reach the ultimate element, when you're ready to drop everything. It's not only he brings you joy, because who you are. And that is what the Rambam says, that is the fifth element. And that's that fifth element, which if you want to bring it into Chassidus, you can also explain it, the 5 levels of the soul. Yechidah shebenefesh. So there's 4 levels we mentioned. Shava Dibur Maisa is Nefesh Ruch Neshama. The Chaya is the Ratzon of the soul. And then you have the Yechidah shebenefesh, the oneness of the soul. And that is, I do it because that is who I am. I'm ready to drop that's when I'm ready to drop everything. Could be in the middle of the game. I could be busy with something. I'm ready to drop everything. Not because of any delight, because that's who I am. Look how he brings down this text, number 12. It's this interesting text by Judy Cook. 6 ways to go the extra mile for your customer. That's going the extra mile for your customer. Humans want to feel valued. They want to feel like everything that they say is heard and understood. And you are a trusted supplier to make that happen. That's a real service. Even if their minds are elsewhere, knowing that yours is on them will cement your company and its caring ethos in their memory. So Adan Ali, a former restaurant owner, remembered the time when a regular customer dined without his partner. Knowing that he normally came with her, he asked if she was okay. And he let us know that she had the flu. Listen what he did. Before the customer left, we packed up some freshly made soup and some other items for him to take home for her.
Very sweet.
On the house. That's going the extra mile.
Sweet.
Right? That is not doing service. That is unbelievable. That's what your customer is going to remember. The team gesture was super appreciated, resulting in a lot of positive feedbacks. So that's when you want to do something, because that's the good. You're into the service. You know what it means to do the service. You're ready to go that extra mile. You're not just ready to just do something and does good service, but you're ready to go the extra mile. That is when we can reach up to the 5th element in the positive way. That we're ready to go that extra mile. It's not only because we're trying to do things thoughtful and emotionally and action, and not only because we want to create a desire. Actually, we're ready to go the extra mile.
That's complete truth.
That is when a person goes doesn't even need to wait for God to ask him what he needs. We go lifnim meshur sadin. That's where a Jew goes beyond the letter of the law. It's chassid and kainai, so to say. He shows kindness to his creator. Even the God will say, "Wow, this is service. This is the service." That is when a person can go that extra mile. And that's the beauty of this concept. So the Rebbe says, from the negative, we learn the positive. From the negative of the Eibusha says how far impurity can go. From the concept of the physical to the character to the essence, but surely we can go in the positive from the action to the speech, to the thought, to the will, to ultimately the essence. So from Chametz, we learn just like it goes negative to the essence, we should go to the essence in the positive way. Because by getting rid of the negative to the essence, hopefully we can do the positive to the essence. It's very deep sikha. But hopefully I gave it over
Do
as
the-
best as I can.
Rabbi Bucket, do the chukim have anything? Is this like somehow connected to the chukim where we don't really